With all the failures and missteps we've seen from the Marvel Cinematic Universe over the past 5 years, sometimes it's hard to remember all the flops and disappointments that they've actually had. It's one of the reasons that it looks like the MCU is doing everything they can to change gears and move away from some of these failures and hopefully turn around this franchise. Are people going to give them the benefit of the doubt? Not necessarily. Are people hopeful? Some people are. We'll see what happens in the future. But when you look back 3 years ago, some people forget about the mess and the flop, the disaster that was Eternals, a movie that Marvel virtue signaled so hard about that they decided to choose a team of heroes that not as many people cared about so they could race swap, so they could gender swap and not get as much pushback from a fan base. And of course, they decided to go all in with identity politics. And when the movie inevitably flopped at the box office, $400 million on a $236 million budget, lost significant amount of money for Marvel. What did we hear from the media when fans said, no, we don't like this shit, it's garbage, why did you even put this out? Eternals review bomb proves Marvel is on the right track. They were happy, and even when actors started attacking the fan base themselves, the media was totally down with that. You should tell those haters that they're not welcome in the MCU. Well, apparently what you thought was on the right track, you thought you were getting a sequel, Eternals 2, apparently not going to happen. Eternals 2 is dead in the water as Marvel is reportedly not working to develop a sequel. Eternals grossed $402 million at the worldwide box office and sits at 47% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Interesting, right? What were we told by the media, by Disney, by Marvel? We were told by everyone. It's just some bigots out there that don't like this movie. Eternals gets review bombed by trolls on IMDb. Marvel's Eternals gets review bombed for LGBTQ plus relationship. And if it's just a small handful of people, why did this thing do so poorly at the box office? Why did it lose money? If it's just a handful of people that were complaining about a gay kiss or a gay relationship, then I'm sure Marvel would move forward and develop a sequel and give those dozens of Eternals fans out there exactly what they want. Apparently, it's not in the cards because as hard as they tried at Marvel to push identity politics and it failed year after year after year, it feels like they're moving off a lot of those things. And now we're seeing those handful of fans out there rally and demand we deserve an Eternals 2, despite the fact that the first one flopped at the box office. Marvel fans rally around Eternals after disappointing sequel reports reemerge. Disappointed Marvel fans express frustrations over reports there may be no Eternals sequel. Several fans have rallied for Eternals 2 following this, feeling a cosmos-spanning sequel is a missed opportunity. Fans hope for the Eternals return in future MCU releases. Let's see what Jacob says. Hashtag Eternals made her on the theme of the first Dune and did really well on Disney Plus, so we deserve a sequel! Really? You deserve a sequel to something that was panned by critics, panned by audiences, and flopped at the box office. Now, if you want to make a comparison to something like Dune, that's fine. And actually, Dune had a day-and-day release on streaming. So while Dune immediately the first day it got released in theaters, it also went directly onto HBO Max before it got turned into Max. So you could just watch it at home as long as you had access to that streaming service. No additional payment, no video on demand thing like that. And it still made about $400 million on a budget, by the way, that was significantly less than what we saw for Eternals. Dune Part 1, $165 million. Eternals, $230 million budgets. Similar box office results, despite the fact that Dune was available at the same exact time on streaming services. And also, it was loved by a lot of the audience and by a lot of the critics as well. That kind of makes sense why that got a sequel, doesn't it? Marvel Studios scrapping Eternals 2 feels like a mistake. Like most COVID-era movies, the original underperformed, yet it was beautifully crafted, like COVID-era movies. Now, certainly, like I stated, I do have to factor in some of these things that happen. However, that was released when there was essentially no more COVID restrictions. Disney's been making that excuse, in post-pandemic, that's why people aren't seeing movies. No, people aren't seeing movies that they have no interest in post-pandemic, just like they didn't see movies they weren't interested in before that. Oh, and by the way, if that was such a big factor, why, a month after Eternals released, did we see Spider-Man No Way Home make basically $2 billion worldwide? You can only use that excuse so many times. What else do we have here? I hope they come back in a later saga where the X-Men play a central role. The Eternals come back at some point, create a Judgment Day event. It would be epic. Now listen, I would not be surprised if we at some point in time saw them in some sort of cameo or whatever, of like very, very fucking briefly to throw them a bone. But the idea that there's actually, like I said, not many people out there, because if it actually had a big fan base, it would have done better at the box office. There are people that are very, very upset after finding out, after, kind of months of this rumor floating around that once again confirmed in a Kit Harington interview that, yeah, Eternals 2 not fucking happening, and it shouldn't. Now, we've heard a lot of reports about Marvel potentially getting rid of a lot of the activists and focusing more on things that fans will like rather than virtue signaling. Time will tell when it comes to that. I, along with many others, certainly hope that that will be the case. But it seems like a good first step in that way by saying, you know what, fuck this movie, it flopped, we focus way too much on identity politics, and we're not going to do a sequel. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.